What is up, everybody? Welcome to Word First Radio, the podcast brought to you by Word First Ministries. I am your host, Jacob O'Neill, and I am joined, as always, with my friends Bailey and Cameron. And today, we have a very special guest in the studio, Bente Sontorp. Wow. How are you doing today?
Was that good? Was that good? Did he get it right? Will you say your name for our American listeners so they can see what we have to go through trying to say any Norwegian words?
I think actually you were very good.
Thank you.
If I should say it myself,
Yeah.
My name is Bente Sontorp.
Oh, well, you heard it here first. My Norwegian is Norwegian approved. We're going to go ahead and just jump right into it. Bailey, could you go ahead and open us with prayer, please?
Yeah, of course. Lord, I pray that we would just have an opportunity today to encourage and bring wisdom into each other's lives. I pray that Bente would share with us, both us here at the table and the listeners who are tuning in with us. I pray that she would impart her wisdom and her knowledge on us, and just that we would have an encouraging and good conversation. We ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bailey. So this is something new that we're doing on Word First Radio. Normally, the people back in California just see our faces, but now we have a new face in the studio. Cam, would you mind just telling the people back at home what we're doing on this episode?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. So it's important to us to give a picture of what it is that we're up to here in Norway. And some of it is difficult to explain. I remember when I was pastoring at the Orchard, I'd come home and I'd be just totally whipped. And Whitney would say, "Why are you so, what did you even do today?" And if I made a list of what I had accomplished, it doesn't look like a job at all, but it's a lot of work and it's very tiring. And I feel that way sometimes about what it is that we're up to when we're here in Norway. So when our American friends ask, what are you guys up to? The list of things that I can say makes it difficult really to get a picture of what it is that we're doing in Norway, and especially a picture of why it is that we're here in Norway. So we've invited Bente, who we have endless, amazing, wonderful things to say about. And hopefully not even hopefully, I'm certain she'll give us a better picture and help to understand, help to locate not only our friends in the United States, but people who are interested in missions and what's going on in Norway in general, to help us understand what's going on in what's sort of the challenges are in the nation and why it is that we're here, and to make sense of what it is that we're doing here. So when we tell you things like, we just got done with language school and tonight we're going to whatever, it will make sense of why it is that we're doing that. So Bente is a church planting expert. She works with the Norwegian Baptist Union and has just an infinite amount of wealth of wisdom to pour out upon us. And we're just so glad and honored that you would. I know it's a very un-Norwegian thing to hear nice things about yourself. Nevertheless, it's all very true. Yeah. So I think that's more or less what it is that we're up to today. So we're going to ask Bente some questions. We want to have lots of opportunities to ask Norwegians who are here, like, what's going on? Because we can tell you what we think, and maybe we're close, but we have so much to learn.
Absolutely. And we're so thankful that we have someone like you that we can learn from. So let's just start off with a real softball. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the Americans back in California. Who is Bente?
First, I want to say thank you for having me here, and that for me it's quite special to sit here together with you, because for quite some month, or I think a year and more, we have been talking and chatting about your coming to Norway. So it's so exciting that you are here and that you experience the winter together with us now.
Yes.
Yes, we have.
Finally.
We hope for more snow, and we hope it will stay during Christmas also. And then also I have to say that, you are learning language now, and my English is not, so I hope you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But I'm Bente. I'm starting to get old. You want to also know the age, or is it like that's a secret? Or
if you want
no one was asking. It's very impolite. You'd never ask a lady her age.
But for me it's very.
We're not asking. So,
please
feel
tell
free.
no secrets.
Yeah, okay.
I'm 49, so soon, not soon, but next year is 50, and that's weird because I feel that I'm young still. But age is age, and I'm thankful for life. So that's also why, we celebrate every year. And I'm single. I live in Oslo, but I'm not from Oslo. But still, now I feel I'm quite I'm not from Oslo, but I've been living in Oslo for many years, so I feel like I belong here too.
Yeah.
But when I'm saying that I'm going home, it's to my home in Oslo, but it's to my place where I grew up, and that's in Halden. It's a city just 1.5 hours from Oslo. It's on the border to Sweden.
Yep.
So
Nice.
we have been neighbor to Sweden. When I grew up, and there I grew up on a farm. Yes,
very
with
cool.
my parents, and we were 5 siblings. So
Wow.
I have one sister who's older than me, and then I have 3 younger brothers.
Yeah.
And I mean, they are all have family now and living around, but that was a place where I grew up. And my family, they were all Christians, so I were introduced. Sometimes I say, like, that my parents carried me into the church when I was 2 months, and I never really come out again because I grew up in
Nice.
that, and that was the Baptist church in the place called Tistedal, is a part of Halden. So
Yeah.
that's where I was growing up.
Yeah, very, very cool. So kind of on that same theme, you were talked about how you were raised in a Christian home and brought into the church and never left, of course. Why don't you tell us a very Christianese American word back in the States is your testimony or your
Yeah.
story. So if you would tell us how you came to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. What's that story of how you made that personal decision?
Yes. My family were Christian, so
Yeah.
Jesus was a part of my whole upbringing. And then I went into the church. We were part of the church, and I think like the place where I learned to know Jesus. I mean, I saw my parents and they believe, but we didn't really have like a prayer and Bible reading together at home. So that was more in the church where those who teach me about the Bible. I mean, we have talks at home, but never like we were together as a family and studied the Word of God. So that was in the church. So I go to Sunday school, and then children's choir, and then the junior, as we call, when you're teenagers, and then we start to go on camps. And I think like many of my age in the churches in Norway has been going to junior camps, like teenagers camp.
Yeah.
So many of us have been taking like the decision to follow Jesus there, and it's
Yeah.
also what I did. I think was the second camp, but in a way I have always
Sure.
been following Jesus.
Yeah.
So it was like I have to take my own decision, and that I did on that camp.
Yeah.
But then in the church, quite early, I get responsibility. I think the first thing was like I start to play piano in a Sunday school.
Yeah.
And from there,
Nice.
and then it was a lot of, this is an American context, so I have to say the church was quite small.
Yeah.
I think in your context.
Yeah.
But
What about for a Norwegian context? Is it about medium size or
I think like small, medium.
Yeah.
Small,
roughly
medium.
how many people?
Yeah, I think like on the Sunday service, maybe 60, 70,
Okay.
or maybe a little less also. But then when I was like 14 or 15, we started a youth group because we didn't have that in our church at that time. And I think I was like, because my sister was 1 year older, I was not old enough. But since I was like with her, I started going
You got to
very
go,
early.
yeah.
Nice.
And we were like, with the church also, we travel on camps. And I can remember, I think I was 14 or something like that, where I was like, we had a church camp. And at that camp, the Holy Spirit really filled me up. And that was an amazing experience for me. So since that time, I really felt that the Holy Spirit touched my whole body.
Yeah.
I cannot say that I've been on fire the whole time. I mean, it's ups and downs, but I only feel like, Jesus is living in me. Wow, that's an experience. He's always there, and the Holy Spirit is here, so I can always pray and talk to him. He's close.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
the closeness has been like following me my whole life. And then I became a youth leader when I was 16. I think that was maybe too too young. But still, it was quite fun and a lot of responsibilities. At that time, we were about, I think, like 60 to 80 youth. And when I think about it now, I think I should have maybe some people who were older, like, a little closer to me at that time. But I survived. And we have a lot of fun. And God was doing amazing things among us. And a lot of those people are now in ministry and out.
Good.
So I think, like, I met Jesus. I've always been following Jesus, and I've been like trying to be in his ministry as a child my whole life. Actually, I think,
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I feel like it's interesting that you say that, you went to a camp and experienced that we actually have a lot of those kinds of experiences in the U.S. And that's actually kind of part of my story. I also made a personal decision to follow Jesus at a camp. I was like, I was in like 6th grade. So like middle school. But I know that we've been involved in that, with youth camps and stuff like that. So thank you so much for that. We wanted to get into, we were talking on a previous episode about some of the oddities of Norwegian culture that we just don't understand. And now that we have a real life Norwegian here with us,
caught one.
We're not going to let you leave until we talk about these things.
We got to know.
Yeah, we got to know.
Before we get into the fun stuff, let's talk about the fun stuff. Could you explain some of the things that we wonder about Norwegian culture? Here's an example that I used. Norwegians don't say bless you when we sneeze. And so it's very common in the U.S. We sneeze and people say bless you, and they don't say that here. Do we have any other ideas that you guys were thinking of? There's
tons of things I wonder about Norway. Let's do one at a time. We don't need to stack them up on Bente. The first question I think is, why are Norwegian people so rude that they don't say God bless you after you sneeze? I think that's exactly your question.
What he said. No.
I mean, I'm always wondering, why are you saying that?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
But then I've been thinking a little about it,
Yes.
and then I think actually we do.
Yeah.
But,
Really?
But not like, I think that you always say it, but very often when someone sneezes, we say prosit.
Yeah.
Prosit. And the roots there are very similar to God bless you. It's like, yes, but it's be helpful for you or like that. So it's not like God bless you,
Sure.
but prosit. I mean, it's not a Norwegian word, so it's very weird, but it's like,
Yeah.
I think it's, the root is Latin, that's, and it's like, must this be helpful for you, or in like that way. I'm not sure how I should translate it. So I think in one way we do, but not like every time, but very often we say.
Yeah,
Sure.
I was thinking about that. So that's we talked about that. I think on the first episode. That's one of the things we noticed is when people sneeze, no one says God bless you. And in the United States, if somebody sneezes in a room and nobody says bless you, it's very tense. Someone's waiting for it, and then if nobody says it,
It's like you think everyone's mad at you, and you're like,
Or
whoa.
it's like,
No, everyone's mad at
it's
you.
like if one of your shoes is tied way too tight. It's just it's a little bit uncomfortable. And so we're thinking about that after we recorded the last episode. I was thinking about it. I was like, why the heck do we say that? Like, why does it create that kind of tension? And that actually, I think, is a really excellent example of a minor cultural difference that has sort of a big feeling behind it. So here, or at home in the United States, where we grew up, what we expect is somebody sneezes and somebody else says bless you, God bless you, something like that. And here we don't get that. And so the automatic reaction is, that's kind of rude. Like I'm expecting, and that's in the United States, it would be rude to not respond when somebody sneezes. But then you think about it, go, why do we do that?
Yeah.
Like what? And you learn as a kid, I don't even know if this is true, but it's something, there was a superstition at some point, and people thought if you sneezed, you were possessed by a spirit, so they're blessing a spirit out of you, or something like that. Who knows? Yeah.
So we say it because
It's
we're
in the
dumb.
Bible. But nobody knows that. Nobody knows what the actual story is. And when you hear the actual story, you go, that's a little weird.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, that's a cultural thing. And so I asked a friend of mine who's a pastor in the West, asked him how you say bless you. And he's kind of said, well, why would you? Like, bless you after someone sneezes? Like, that's very strange. And that made me realize it was like a cultural disconnect. There's no, I don't know, I'm saying it really badly, but it's just as strange to me if I back up, it's just as strange to me that Norwegians don't say God bless you as it is that Americans do. Because I guess actually what the Norwegians are doing maybe makes more sense. But I told my same friend, we were walking near Stavanger and talking about some of the differences between the United States. He and his family had visited Los Angeles. And he said he really appreciated that in the United States, everyone waves or smiles or says hi. And so I asked him, I said, if I wave at a Norwegian person who drives by, like, what are you guys thinking? He goes, I think it'd be something like, why does that guy think he knows me?
Yeah.
I said, really? He goes, yeah, you would only do that with somebody that you know. And if they don't know you, that'd be confusing. And then as we were walking together, he goes, you really want to say hello to all of these people? I said, yeah. He went, you want to say hello? I said, well, in the United States, in California in particular, we don't necessarily say hello, but we'll give a nod or a smile. We acknowledge each other as we pass each other on the street. And he just could not believe that. Couldn't believe that. He's like, that just must be so exhausting. Not really. I'm not that outgoing, but I bring a little bit of that here.
Energy.
Well, I'll ask you. So so what I want to do is be American enough that I can get away with it. Not try and make myself into a Norwegian, because that seems like a silly thing to do. But also not make people think I'm too weird. I'd like to be weird in a way that is nice and kind and lovely or something like that. So
you want to have your cake and eat it too,
something
is
like
what
that.
I'm hearing.
Yeah. I want to be an American, but you guys be okay with it.
Yeah.
One of the advantages I think we have is that we can kind of clobber some of the Norwegian social expectations, because you guys know that we're Americans. People they don't ask me all the time, but they figure it out pretty quick. Oh, you're American. But like what we'll do is when we cross the street in Norway, pedestrians always have the right of way. So when you're standing at a street, the cars will stop and then you walk. So I don't wave at random strangers, but when a car stops for me or stops for me and the girls, I'll always make eye contact and smile or give a little wave. And that, at least there's a reason for that to happen. What's your opinion on me doing that? Is that super weird, or would you see that as a nice thing that somebody did?
I think that will be a nice thing, and I mean, very many say that we as Norwegians are very, calm and quiet and not very nice. And sometimes people who are staying here, they say that they understand it when it become dark, cold. It's like, okay, we just rush to our homes and we don't want to stay outside. But I think we also should learn. I mean, everyone could change a little, and I think to be more open, to be more social. I think that if some people are that around me or around others, it helps us, to get to know each other. So I think that the Norwegian culture can also change a little.
Yeah.
And it's a change over the time, because I mean, the last 30 years, we have got a lot of refugees and coming into our country who come from different. But I think that we need to learn to behave and I mean, when you are out walking in the forest, you can see that people say hello to you.
Oh.
And I think also when you last time when we had lockdown in Oslo because of COVID, we start to be more nice to each other, hi, how are you doing at the stores and all. And that's new to us, because we never talk to people like that. So and I find out people saying, are you a Norwegian? Or because for me, it's I'm interested to get to know people, and then it's more. But I mean, for people who coming from some countries in Africa or something, they come into our buses and people are quiet. Yeah. You don't sit beside each other. It feels so weird. And I mean, it's so weird that we are sitting together so close, but we don't talk. Yeah. So I think that you should be yourself. And help us to be more social and talk. I mean, we are people who are living on this earth together. Why should we enjoy it to be together?
It's funny. It's funny you bring up that example. Flying over here, when we got on the plane from Copenhagen to land in Oslo, a Norwegian woman sat next to me, and I was just trying to be polite and trying to be nice. I'm like, "Oh, hey, you coming home to Oslo?" And she's like, "Yeah." And said nothing else.
Yes. I'm sorry.
And I'm like, no, it's fine. But I was just thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, I was just trying to be nice and make this experience less awkward of we're sitting on a plane together.
Yeah, because you do. That's what we're used to doing. And I've heard that too. I've heard another friend of mine said it's confusing as a Norwegian that Americans say, "Hey, how you doing? How's it going? What's up?" But you're not really asking that, and you do not want an answer to that question, which is true. That's something we do. When I say, hey, how's it going? I'm saying something like hello. And we're acknowledging one another's existence, or maybe even indicating that I care that you're doing well. But I'm really not asking you to tell me how your day is.
And I think that's a little confusing for us, because we're like, why are you asking when you don't want an answer? Yeah. Because we feel that you don't want an answer. So like, oh, why are you asking though?
And we don't. And from my perspective, it's a very polite thing to do. You would never not ask somebody how they're doing or how's it going. In fact, it's weird just to say hello to somebody.
Yeah.
Hello is really cold and
It
strange.
feels empty.
Yeah. But I also don't want to know how you're doing. I mean, I do. Kind of. I don't want to hear your story. But I want you to know that I care that you're doing well.
Yeah, I think that's just very interesting. Like those everyday like phrases that like my American ears like don't question at all, and especially like my Californian ears. One of the ones that someone pointed out to me, it was like on a meme on Facebook or whatever. But Californians say, "Yeah, no, for sure."
Yeah, we do.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I've said that like my whole life, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, it is kind of weird."
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
for sure.
Affirmative, negative, maybe.
Yeah, it's so
pretty good.
that's kind of one of those like strange things. So kind of on that, in that same realm of, well, actually, I apologize. I have to backpedal one thing. I have to talk about one thing. I have to get this out. We have to talk about the Norwegian Reach and talk about how it's a real thing. So can you explain this to us? One of the things that like we were briefed on the first time we visited Norway was that when you're eating dinner with Norwegians, there's this thing called the Norwegian Reach, right? Where they reach. Yeah.
I was thinking, what he's talking about? I'm glad you explained it for me.
Yeah. So if the salt's in front of Cam, it's perfectly acceptable for me to just reach over Bailey's food and grab it.
No, but not in the United States. So what we're
Not in
used
the
to
US. Yeah.
is if there's something that's in front of me and Jacob would like for it to be in front of him, he'll ask me to pass it. He would never reach his arm out. That's seen as very rude.
Yes.
And I don't know exactly why. Maybe you're you're being dominant over the table, or you're not looking out for other people's stuff. Does not seem to be the way that we do things here.
So, but that's the way you do things here.
Yeah.
It's perfectly acceptable for me to just grab the salt. What kind of isn't? Because I told her.
What's the deal with that?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
your question?
Well, so I told an American
So
that
why?
one time, and he said that's not true. Norwegians don't do that, and he had never been to Norway in his life. And I was like, okay, all right, fine. So.
For me, it's like hard to say that that's a really Norwegian thing, but I think like when you like now had seen it, then you get it like confirmed every time because it happened. But for me, I don't see it, because I'm quite used to it. I think it's something I do.
Yeah.
It's like that's real.
Yeah,
I think
gotcha.
like I don't have an answer for that. I just have to reflect. I think that
Sure.
that the families are different.
Yeah.
Some families would say, please, can you pass it on to me? But sometimes I think like we manage ourselves. So we just take it like we are doing this together. So it's like, so I'm not sure why we are doing it, but I'm sorry if it's hard for you.
No.
So I'm not
That's
certain
totally fair.
I'm not certain I've got it right, but the thing you said about being sort of self-reliant and not bothering anybody else. Like I'm not going to bother Jacob with the salt.
Yeah,
I can
because
manage
I
that on my
manage
own.
myself.
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
That's
So it's
that's
like-
how it seems. That's how it seems to me.
Yeah.
So it's never been rude or never seemed rude, but that's not something we do. That's very rude in the United States.
Yeah. But I think
Funny.
Well, that's great. That answer is totally fair because that really just confirms like one of the things we've been talking about was like these are the things that in our own context like we don't even think about, we don't even question because it's just so normal to us. It's just so regular. So kind of on that same theme. Knowing that Norwegians, you guys look very similar to 2/3 of us, but you are different in a lot of ways. They're very different kinds of people. So, what advice would you give us to make Norwegian friends? Because we're lonely. So,
Oh gosh.
how can we make Norwegian friends?
I think that Norwegians are also very different. So when I speak about Norwegians as general,
Yeah.
I think that you should have contact with them, and you should do things together with one person or a couple, or like spending time with, because I think Norwegians need time.
Yeah.
And I think like. I mean, it's the same now when I say that Americans look like. I mean, it's not like I say that you are doing this, but I think when you say, Cameron, that like people like you are so Americans, or like, I think that for us, some of us, it's like when we meet people from US or other countries, it seems like they are, how should I say it, like, in one way a little superficial.
Yeah. I think that's true. I think we would say that's
superficial. Like they can say, "Oh, I know, I have a good friend." I think like, how good is that friend?
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
it's like, and please come down. I haven't been so helpful to you, or like, because I think that we need more time to get in touch with each other and come deeper in before we make that friendship, and especially. For me, it's quite easy to invite people into my home, but for other people, other Norwegians, they don't invite people if they don't know them very well.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I invite the people because I want to get to know people, but some people, they want to know people before they invite.
Yeah.
That sounds very weird when I'm saying it, but people want to be safe, and since some Norwegians are not so outspoken, it's like they are a little shy.
Yeah.
So I think if you want friends, and I think you have
Please.
friends,
Yeah.
but it's
I
like
have some
special
friends,
because
yes.
your class is like, I think you meet people from many different nationalities.
Oh yeah, all different countries.
So you don't like really get Norwegians, like, if you move to a small city or like the countryside, it will be different. And I mean, for me, have been living in Oslo for so many years now, so I think it will be hard to move to places where it's very small and few people and like more family oriented friendship. But I think to spend time in Oslo, go to cafes, do things together, and after a while you will see this is friends.
Yeah.
Like, and also invite them to your home, because people will come to your home. They are, I think So spend time. Time, I think, is the key.
Yeah, thank you for that. When I think about, everything you just said, and like reflect on like my own experiences talking to Norwegians here, talking to Americans back, I feel like in America, Bailey's done this 1,000 times. He'll talk to the guy at like the Chipotle counter and find out his first name and say, "Hey, we got a young adults group on Tuesday nights. You want to come, have a Bible study with us?" And it's totally normal to like just invite someone like on the street to like a youth group or something like that. But when I think about like some of my conversations with Norwegians here, some of the most meaningful ones were the ones where I spent like a decent chunk of time like just getting to know them first, or like hanging out with them. Like one of the first guys I ever talked to doing the Skeptics Week survey in Bergen. When we did that trip, I spent like 45 minutes playing chess with him and like doing like puzzles with him, and we were just hanging out. We were just two guys hanging out, and that conversation was so memorable, so meaningful. I can just
because I think people, they would like to know that you care, that you really care, and that's time, the key word to show that. I think.
Yeah. I think as I reflect, I could be wrong about this, but I think I'm right. I think that what we do is we demonstrate value for one another. Like we demonstrate the same value different ways. So what I'm doing is honoring you by not reaching over the table to get something. I'm honoring your place at the table and your sort of space. Whereas maybe what somebody from a Norwegian household is doing is honoring me by not asking me to be burdened by passing something across the table when I can just do it myself. And so what's interesting to me as I sort of think about the differences and learn to love the differences is I really think we're trying to express similar ideas and similar sense of honor to one another. We just do it differently. And I think, Bent, I think you're exactly right. I think Americans, our initial contact is very superficial. I'm not criticizing that at all. I think that we have a really low sort of first barrier to relationship. Like everybody's in the club unless there's a reason not to be, and that looks like friendliness. But we don't have as many sort of deep relationships, and. I don't know how much more I really want to say about that, but I think it's reflecting. We have a same sort of need to be understood and understand other people and have deep, meaningful relationships. And I think maybe at the heart of it, Americans and Norwegians probably have the same number of close friends. We sort of let everyone into the garden, but not in the front door. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's very interesting to hear and reflect together. Yes.
Yeah, that was very helpful. That value of we're all trying to honor kind of the same sentiment, like of honor. Nobody ever wants to. Well, except for sociopaths, but no one wants to disrespect other people. Like people generally want to do well by other people, and you respect other people. So I think that sentiment of like we're trying to honor the same value, but it expresses itself in different ways.
Yeah.
I think is very helpful, and it's fun. It's fun to think about.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we like to talk about a lot, that Word First Ministries talks about a lot, is why we came to Norway.
Yeah.
It's something that it's hard for me to find a better term than the spiritual state of Norway. And the people back in California have heard it from American mouths ad nauseum. They've heard it so many times from us, and it's easy for me to like read statistics about like, hey, this percentage of Norwegians don't believe in God, or this percentage of Norwegians are Buddhist or Muslim, or all these different statistics. It's easy for me just to read a chart, but you are a Norwegian who's been here experiencing it, and has lived in this culture, obviously as a Norwegian. So we would like to hear it from your perspective. The exact question we have is, about a generation ago, Norway was known for sending out a bunch of missionaries into the world, but that has changed. Nowadays, most Norwegians, don't even believe in God. So, why would you say that is?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I will say that I don't believe in God, because I think that it's among a lot of Norwegians, it's some kind of belief. Okay. But then it's like. How is a picture of God? Who is God? They are. What are they thinking about God? And then when they meet us, then like, where is Jesus in this picture?
Sure.
So I think the process you have make a picture of here has been like my life. It's I'm soon 50, so I think. During my lifetime, this has happened. Because a lot of Norwegians were Christian. We had a state church where all people, almost all, were members. Because the country was divided into the different state churches. It was like when you were born, you were part of that state church.
Right.
And as a Baptist, we have been fighting against that. Because we believe that. The church should not be the state church. It should be a free church. So, we are glad now that we don't have it. And I still, a lot of people are member of the state church, but they are not very active members. But many people still baptized their children in the Lutheran church, who was the state church, because it's just how we do it.
Right.
It's part of our family traditions, So, it's many theories about what's had happened, but I think the last 50 years in Norway, and maybe I should say the last 70 or 80, has been, it's been a huge transition for a country, because the Norwegians were a very poor country. It was one of the poorest country in the Second World War, and we have to rebuild the country and all the things. So my grandfathers, they have built this country, and I think they built it out of their belief, because many of them are Christians, and they stand together and want to build this country, and they were. They use their money very well and build up a social system who should be there for everyone. We want to help each other. The Labour Party was part of that, and really rebuilt the country. And we are so blessed. And I don't really like to use the word blessed either, because I think it can feel like other people are not blessed, but I hope you understand me right.
Of course.
Nothing. The country now is not perfect, but I think that we should be thankful for the country we have now, the social system we have, and all these things. It can always be better, but still, it's a good country who take care of us, and we also trust the people who are in the authorities, and in a way we have seen that through this pandemic, so but what has been now then, I mean, it's a lot of, we have been rich, not all, but the majority, and earn a lot of money. And I think when we see that we get to own more, I think that's been our God in a way, like the materialism, you call it that?
Materialism,
So I think that we have been too occupied with the things we have, because now you should have your own house, you should have cars, you should have cabin in the mountains, and maybe also at the sea, and we have, and we use our money, and we can travel all over the world, and so I think that we have changed focus, and we have started to worship the things and not the creator of all the things.
Isn't that interesting that that's exactly the impulse of every false religion in history? The impulse is we see the sun and we worship the sun and not the maker of the sun.
So it's so sad. But still, I believe that God is our Father. All people around the world are my brothers and sisters, because we are created in God's image. It's God who is Father. So I believe, and I mean, that's why I also do church, because we want to say, welcome home. Because in the deep, when we say that you are maybe superficial in a way, we also are, it's that, the Norwegians, because we just take what we need, but under the deep is a longing to belong, to care, and I think that, and I mean, we have a lot of the inner body of people, or what you will call it, is like we have a lot of depressions, people who are lonely in the city, Oslo, the capital. The loneliness it's so many who struggle with it, and with people who have angst, no, what do you call it?
Anxiety.
Anxiety. Sorry, my English.
No, you're fine.
And so I think that the gospel is so good news into this. So we should just be bold and say that, what you are longing for, searching for, maybe they don't have words for it themselves.
Sure.
But I think to live out that, and that's also, it could be easy for me now to, in this situation, like complain and all these things. It's hard, with the COVID and all these things. But I mean, I believe that God is still there, and he take care of us. He sees us in this situation also, and I think that's good news for people who feel hopeless, who are afraid, who feel
Is it okay if I ask you kind of a big question?
Okay,
good. I'm glad you said yes.
Because I mean, I'm not sure I can answer. But
you can. You're the expert at this. So the path that you have taken, to interact with the world that needs to know Jesus, is you're passionate about church planting. And so you have a recent church plant. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. The first one is, why is it that you're convinced that church planting is an important thing to be doing in Norway? Why is that the good strategy? And then just tell us a little bit about, I'm not even going to say the name. I'll let you tell us the whole story of the church that you've recently planted, and you can say anything that you'd like to about it, but I'd like to hear a little bit about that story, if that's okay. So why church planting? And then tell us about your most recent church planting work.
Why church planting? I think, like, as you say, Jacob, that Norway has been sending a lot of missionaries. Like you are now, and I mean, that you have been working hard to get here. And I mean, can you imagine Norwegians back in the 1950 or 60 or to get to the other side of the world? Wow, it was a huge step. You cannot be on the internet, you could not have contact. You had the flight ticket, but you never knew if you were coming back to see your family again. I mean, they have paid such a huge price. And I mean, people who are in Norway now, from Ethiopia, for example, can tell, how their family met Jesus because of Norwegian missionaries and missionaries other places. But I mean,
that's amazing.
And I mean, they have been paying such a huge price. But what happened when all the refugees and other people come to Norway? It seems like we forgot our mission. I mean, no, we can be missionary to the whole world, as Matthew challenged us, in go out and speak the gospel to all. We can do that. I can do it in my neighborhood. I have almost in a picture, if you understand, the whole world is just around me. I don't have to. I don't need a ticket. I don't need to use money on that. I mean, they are here, and I mean, I'm glad that they are here because I think that since we are blessed in Norway, have a good country, we should care for people and the world also. I don't saying that the war and all the things happen is good, but when it happened, we should help each other in different ways.
Yeah,
but when
absolutely.
they're here. I mean, what we should do is to tell them the best news we have. I mean, we have Jesus, you understand?
Yeah.
But it's like the church has been sleeping a little, like they are here, and maybe we should be afraid of it, or like, well, how should we manage this society? I mean, tell them about Jesus.
I want to clap right now. Oh my gosh!
I think that's like my passion is like the whole the world need to know about Jesus. And,
Absolutely.
And Oslo East, though, where I feel God has put on my heart. If you go down to the city and see the city, you see that the mosques are very central in the picture. I mean, they are very huge in a Norwegian context, and go there on a Friday evening. I mean, it's so full of a man who is going to the mosque. And I mean, that should be the church. That should be the line. Should be to the church. So that's
yes, it should.
and that's all. Like, that's so sad, when I know that our church is still so small because I really need it. So we are waiting and longing to see that God is doing something new in our country because we have quite a good number of Christians and people like you coming in, and we just need to help each other because people need Jesus. That was a huge, and no, I had to remember your question.
The
why
second question
church?
was why church planting? And tell us about the one you planted.
Why church plant? I think there's more reason that, for many, many years, first I was a pastor, youth pastor, and then for like 17 years, I just stopped this year actually. I've been working in school system, and I really didn't know how that's happened because that was not my plan. Because I want to work in church, but then when I was like asked to come to the Baptist seminary and help them to develop the school, it was like. Still, it was not a plan. If it felt right, and I think like through the school, because then the Baptist school was, and after some years we started the school again together, like restarted the school together with the Pentecostals in Norway. So that's actually the school you are going to.
HLT.
HLT, yes.
Represent.
And that I think that through that school I get to know many good Christians, and I've been able to be part of a lot of young people's life. So in a pastor perspective, it seems like the meaning. But after some years at the school and working with develop a school and all these things, it was like, do I really still believe that the gospel are good news to that world? Because I felt like I was among Christian, and we get to use it, and the terms and everything was like the world was Christian for me. And since I'm a single person living in Oslo, I'm not really very well into the society, because I think that that's helped when you have kids and you have to interact with other parents. And I mean, I could also choose different to be part of some sports club or something. But actually, that's the sports club was the way into more people who don't have a faith to me.
Oh, wow.
But then it was like, I need to see if it's the church is still, I mean, I was part of a church, but sometimes when you have been part of a traditional Baptist church, or was then, it's like, we are church and we go to church, but it's like on Sunday it was not like it was never in my mind, have I invited my friends? No, my unbelievers friends. It was like take me right, but it was like, I'm glad they are not here. Because sometimes, so for me it was, and then I was by the Baptist Union, through the Baptist Union, I was part of a group who was working with church planting in Norway. And that's, I think, the dream started about me, maybe trying to see something new. And in the Baptist Union in Norway, we are a small union, but we have a lot of, actually in Oslo, I think it's 14 or 15 small Baptist churches.
Wow.
And that's good. But I have a but, and the but can be sometimes, some days it's little, sometimes big. Because I'm so thankful for all of them. But it's like we have Ethiopian church, Vietnamese church, Chin church, Korean church, Tamil church, the name. And that's a blessing, because that make us multicultural. But the church are not multicultural.
Right.
And I think that when I read the Gospel and also the literature of Paul, the New Testament. When he described the church as a new family, where that we are together is not a Jewish or Gentile, slave or free. It's like the borders are down, and we are there together as Christians. We are God's children, and I think we should be. I mean, it's a reason that we have different ethnic groups, but I think we'd be proud of that. But for me, it's like, it's a huge testimony about our new family when we are together from different nationalities and worship God together. So that was like, okay, in the Baptist Union we have the different ethnic group, the migrant churches, but my dream is to try to have a church where we are together. Because I think, as Norwegians, when we moved to your country some years ago, we started Norwegian churches.
Yes, you
but
did.
After a period, we need to change that because we cannot be still Norwegian church. They are dead. So I think that after a period, they also need to change. So I think that, and I hope that our church also could be a help for people who are in a transition that, the second and third generation, they need something different. That's a huge question we can talk about.
Oh my goodness, yes.
But I think that, okay, we need to see, I want to see that if we could have a church where we are different nationalities together. So that's why church plant. And I think that what church plant do to me and some other is like you are more eager to get to reach new people because you don't have a system. I mean, you need to invite people if there should be some there. If not, you don't have a church.
Right.
I find that concept like really interesting. Exact what you just talked about, like churches needing to be willing to change, willing to be like inviting and not just get like stuck in like kind of one niche. We've talked about that before. I've thought about it several times since we have, and I find that very, very interesting. Thank you for touching on that. And so kind of on that theme, us, the reason we're asking you about church planting is because we're kind of like on that radar. We kind of think that that's the route to go, and we are interested in planting a church as well. So if you were to give advice to anybody who was seeking to plant a church, what would be the first things that you would advise us in?
That's a big question.
It's a big question.
Yeah, I think get to know people who are not Christian. Make friendship. Because we have quite a number of people and number of churches in Norway. We are quite good in like change chairs. Like, okay, I'm in this church now, but now this new church is starting, so I joined that new church. And I don't think we need more of fancy, cool church. I mean, I don't say we don't need it, but
we wanted to make a fancy, cool church.
But like we need to reach new people.
Yes,
and in a Norwegian context, it's not like you can. I should not say all, but I mean, if you set up a fancy show or something, people are not coming. I think that you should make friendship, invite them to church. I mean, get friends that you can share Jesus with, so you can see new believers coming. Yeah,
well, that's excellent. I really appreciate you saying that because that sounds so fun. Like, so for me, and we've talked about this before, but I'm very excited and passionate about evangelism, and I know the rest of the team is. We're very committed to evangelical work and gospel work. But just hearing you say that, like being open to new kinds of people, open to building relationships with people, and so it kind of sounds more. Like a family. It sounds like, we're planting churches, but we're also planting church families. And that's awesome. So you have a church family. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? And how about you give us just a couple things that we and the people back at home could be praying for your church about?
Yeah, I think like, I think church planting has been a process in my own life because I grew up, as I said, in a Baptist church, and I've been pastoring a church, and in my mind, church can be an activity, but for change that it's not an activity, something you go to and check out. I've been doing this, to be a life, like you say, Jacob, like it's my family. We care for each other. We are brothers and sisters. And for me, the people from abroad, Ethiopian, Syrian, they have been like so helpful to me because their cultures are more family oriented. So how they live their life, sharing with each other. take care of each other, be there for each other in bad and good days, has been so helpful for me to see and learn. And I think that as Christian and a Norwegian Christian, that have been so good and helpful for me, because I think that sometimes some of the things I'm reading in the Bible that the church is. So I think that's been part of our name. The church name is Home Church, and it's quite funny because right now we don't have a home. In a way that we don't have the church building. I'm using so much time on finding that, because we really want a place downtown Oslo. Like, it could be there we could serve out from Monday to the whole week, not just like having service.
Sure.
So we hoped for a building. Now I get a negative answer yesterday. So I'm like, so if they should pray for something, it's like a place downtown that we could have service, but also do ministry, have cafe, different things out from, and that also we could share with some of the migrant churches. So we could do. I think that the beginning will be to have like Sunday school and teach teenager work together from different nationalities together. So that's our huge prayer.
Yeah.
No, the other prayer request is to see people saved. Because we have quite a number of people in our church family, but they are not still a part of the real family, because they haven't met Jesus yet.
Sure.
And they are in house churches. They have been taking Alpha course. If you're familiar with it, they're like, but they haven't. The Holy Spirit hasn't convinced them, right? Right. So that's our.
Sure.
So those two things are prayers. So, and our home church is like we meet. At this time, we meet every second Sunday. And then now we have this time we have 7 house churches around who meet the other week. They are meeting different days. My house church, it's on Thursday, other are Saturday. It depends on the people. They are choosing themselves, but it's like the core family. And then you have, like, we meet on Sundays. But right now, it has been so hard to gather people in this pandemic time. So I look forward that that's over so we can just come together. But then, and then we are trying to do diaconal work with some kids and also with language cafe and those things. But we really, really want to develop that. So for the future, we also plan to go on holidays and these things with families who don't. I say that we are a rich country, but still we have families who are poor.
Yeah, of course.
The social system are good, but you don't become rich, especially when you're living in Oslo, who is a expensive city. So they don't have money to go to holidays together and so on. So we are right now applying for money so we can and I think out from there we also want to make friendship with other people. So so we have many dreams, but right now it's like the two things is like a building to serve out from and to see people saved and baptized. It should be so fun because I think that's what God has called us to.
Well, since we've got, I'm going to say I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm not that sorry to interrupt. I'm just acknowledging that I have interrupted. I'm going to ask if I can I'm going to put Bailey and Bent both on the spot right now real quick, if that's okay. Because while we have you and while we've got our family at home and our supporting ministers listening, I think it would be, if we didn't take the opportunity to ask this question, and that is, I'm going to ask Bailey to share with you kind of the vision that we think the Lord has given us. And it's always difficult to know how much of that is our own dreams and our own, small measure of wisdom and how we think things ought to be and how much is coming from the Lord. But I'd to ask you, Bailey, if you would share briefly what we think God has for us to do. And then Bente, if you wouldn't mind, just tell us if you think that fits into the overall sort of gospel picture here in Oslo. Because I'll say it for you because you wouldn't say it yourself. Is Bente I think deliberately and amazingly well connected to the people doing evangelism and planting churches and who are interested in seeing people get saved in Oslo. So if there's a single expert who I think can help evaluate the way we hope to sort of join the overall Christian mission here, I think that's you. So I'll hand the floor over to Bailey. Bailey, you share. Bente, you let us know if you think that we're listening to the Lord and we're on the right track.
Yeah, our plan that we have at this point, which, like we always say, it's completely up for God or bent to change our minds.
Everything's on the table.
That's right.
So, but our plan at this point is, it's actually really encouraging to hear kind of your strategy in like church planning, because it sounds pretty similar to our plan. So our plan isn't to show up here as Americans coming to plant a cool American church. Our plan in our heart really is to plant a Norwegian church, or the first one would be an international church. And then from there to raise up, find pastors that we can send out to go plant Norwegian churches. Because I think the main thing behind it is we suspect the same kind of thing you were getting at with church planting, that keeping churches as planting and churches that are constantly sending their people keeps us focused on the gospel and the evangelistic part of our mission. And I think we suspect that if we were to plant a church and just focus on that one church here in Oslo, then we'd probably do the same thing where eventually we and the people in that church get comfortable with being in our own little home. So our heart really is to plant a church that plants churches and churches that plant churches over and over and over.
Yeah, and I think that wow, it's amazing to hear, and I think that I think God has different visions for us, you know. But from my perspective, I think that's we are on the same track, you know, like seeing, and some are into building a big church, and some are a small church, and I think that God has different visions for us. So I will not speak down and up or like, but I really believe, you know, because I think that church should be a family, and then even you have a big church, it should be smaller group where you can belong. So that's, I mean, maybe when you plant churches, it's like as you say that, okay, maybe we can look at it, you have like sites and you have a big church. I mean, I don't, the structure is not important, but I think important is that people get connected to people, so that when they get to know Jesus, they get a new family who can. Yeah, they can live their life together with. So I think that, as you say, and when you are like, we are going to plant new church, you will always be, you need to be fresh and look at how you cannot just like focus on how to build.
Right.
But I mean, someone have to focus on that also, how to build this church, but to have those two, both build a church and all time do new thing. I think that's a good thing. So it will be so interesting to see how we can do that together in the future.
Well, that's one of the reasons I love spending time with you is, you know, I asked you why church planting, and your answer was something like, well, evangelism. We want to see new people join the family of God. Yeah. And we have a similar phenomenon, a similar challenge in the United States that you explained, where you can sort of pick up your chair and move to another church. And, you know, the church you word for it is transfer growth. But in the United States, most of the growth happening in churches is people who have left other churches and now they're coming to your church. They've moved to town. They fell out with the church they were at. Their kids like the new church better or whatever. And well, that's fine. I'm not criticizing that in any sense. People go to different churches and serve in different church families for different reasons. However, I think that the focus that God has given us is on evangelism. So so sort of moving chairs around God's table is a lot less interesting to me, and I'll speak for you guys. I think you guys too. I don't have to think. We've talked about it a lot. Moving chairs around God's table, which definitely has its place. We're interested in evangelizing people who need to know the love and salvation of Jesus.
That's kind of, and it was funny when you were talking about your prayer requests, like to me, like your prayer request could have just been the answer to the first question, who is Bente, as it was all about church planning, preaching the gospel, getting people saved, and finding a home for home church so we can plant more churches. It was perfect, and I think you're awesome. I really appreciate you coming here and speaking into some of our ideas, sharing with us some of these things that we need to be aware of, giving us advice in certain areas. So I really appreciate it, and I'm sure the people back in California also
thank you so
really
much for taking
it.
time. That's excellent.
Did you have fun?
I have fun, and I feel I talk too much, because when you give me a microphone, I use it. But we are excited that you're here, and we are curious about what God has for us together. In the city, Oslo is our capital. It's like a big city, but it's not so big. So we are around in the city all together.
If you want to learn more about what has God been doing in Oslo in Bente's life and the Word First Ministries team, that's what we're going to be talking about on this podcast and in future episodes. So we hope you enjoyed this week, and we'll see you again next week. God bless. Thank you for watching this episode of Word First Radio. Word First Ministries depends on the financial support from God's people. So please consider making a year-end contribution to the ministry. More information is in the links in the description below. If you like the podcast, please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next week. God bless.